Hey everybody, it's Kemp here from creativecashflow.com. Today we're going to do a real quick one on buying a house sight unseen. When you're doing subject to, in the back of your mind, one of the things that you always need to be prepared for is that person that you calls and is just ready to go, right? And we want to be prepared to take that property down and get them contractually obligated to sell you that house. But you've got to know what to recognize, what kind of signs to recognize in order to get to that position. So one of the big things that you want to look out for, and I talk about this in our negotiating videos as well, is any kind of visual that puts the house over them. Anything that makes them say something along the lines of, I just feel like this is weighing on me. I just feel like this house is over me. I just want to get out from underneath this. Anything that has a visualization of this house or that loan being on top of them is a great indicator that those guys are ready to go. My number one favorite question to ask, and you can get your receptionist or whoever you have take your phone calls to ask this question for you. It's a great question to lead into what you were looking to do, is are you willing to sell for what you owe? If the person answers the question, are you willing to sell for what you owe, with a yes, buy the house. Get it contracted right then, okay? And what you're going to do is you're going to tell them at that point in time, okay, I understand that you're giving me the best deal that you can possibly give me, so I'm comfortable in committing to you that I will buy the house. So I'm going to send you a contract through DocuSign. This way you and I are on the same page, that you'll be selling to me, and I can come out and take a look tonight to make sure that everything is as you say. Okay? So that's just my little spiel that I'm going to throw at them whenever I get something like that. Okay, hey, I'm not here to beat you up on price. You've told me that you're willing to sell for what you owe, and that's the best deal that you can possibly give me, right? We really want to make them understand that. I'm not going to try and make you sell it for more than you can sell it, or for less than you can sell it for. So I'm going to do this. I will go ahead and send you a contract just so that you and me are on the same page. I'm ready to buy. You're ready to sell. And obviously watch my videos on how to speak to your seller about subject to, so that you can go through that spiel with them as well. And then give them this little blurb that I just gave you and let them know, I'll be out there, I'll be able to come out tonight, or I'll be able to come out tomorrow, but go ahead and let's sign now so that you and I are both on the same page. I'm committed to you, you're committed to me. I've got an option period in there because I do need to check and make sure that the house is in, a decent enough shape, that we're not complete. It's not going to take me $95,000 to fix up a house that's only worth $70. But as everything is the way that you say it is, I foresee this as being fine. We'll be able to move forward. We'll get it signed through DocuSign and go from there. Boom, done. Now, for my creativecashflow.com members, I have a recording of this happening. It was funny because as I was teaching people how to do this in my mentoring training, a lot of people just don't believe. They're like, oh, you can't buy a house over the phone, and I'm just not going to be able to do that. So I told them, I was like, okay, well, look, I'm going to put my phones on record, and that way I can put something out in front of you. The next call that I got from a seller, I bought the house over the phone in under 20 minutes, and it was using this same thing. So what I've done for my creativecashflow.com members is I've got that uploaded in your resources page. You can go there, you can look at it, and actually watch a video that's just an audio recording of my conversation with this person. I've got a little ticker at the bottom that tells you why I'm saying the things I'm saying them and what is working to get her to psychologically come around to the conclusion of saying yes to this sale subject to. But it works. You can buy sight unseen, and I made a ton of money off of that house from doing it that way. So look for those visualization cues. Look for the answer of yes, they're willing to sell for what they owe, and be ready to sign a contract electronically. Part of the underlying bit of what I've said here is, hey, I'd send you a contract through DocuSign. So those of you who don't have DocuSign can imply, maybe I should go get DocuSign. DocuSign or any kind of other e-signature software, you need to have that on and ready to go, right? There's not like a ton of houses that are going to require this throughout the year, but every so once in a while you're going to have a house where having DocuSign is the difference between you getting a signed contract and not getting a signed contract. So pay the money every year. Just understand that that might be the difference maker at some point. It's not going to be the difference maker always, but that might be the difference maker some point. I typically get 3, 4, 5 houses a year where that's the difference maker. I'm able to get a contract on a house because I was able to email it to them, and it just makes it much easier. The number one priority that you have is getting a contract. Always get the contract. Always get the contract. That's the only reason you're there. Without a contract, you don't have a deal. So it's easy to reprioritize and think that other things matter more than they do when they don't. But what you're shooting for is a signed contract. At the end of the day, you want an option contract. Option contracts are your friend. Option contracts, what that says is that they are obligated to sell you a house. You're not obligated to buy the house. Okay? So you're not out anything. You're not out anything by getting an option contract, but you get that signature because that obligates them to sell to you. And there's something to be said for a physical signature happening on a piece of paper that makes sellers more in tune to what's happening, that really commits them to what's happening. For those of you who have read the book that I've recommended to you many times, which is Influence, the Psychology of Persuasion, you'll recall a chapter in there talking about POWs and how they were basically able to get information out of POWs without any kind of torture, just through subtle and small increments of making them physically write something and sign their name to it. The power of having a signature on a piece of paper is immense. So if you can get a seller to sign that piece of paper that says, yes, I'm selling the paper, this house to you, that's when you win. That's when you're able to go make things happen. So don't get so wrapped up in your due diligence. All right. One of the big mistakes that I see my students make is they think, well, I got this deal, and for it to really work, all these things have to kind of be in line. I really need to do my research on it to figure that out, and then I'll go back and I'll get the signature at that point in time. No. Get the signature up front. Get an option contract. Let the person know, hey, I'm going to have to do some work here, but I think this is something that I can get done. So let's go ahead and sign this contract. Let's get it going. And once I've got a commitment from you that says we're ready to sell the house at this price, that's when I'm going to spend all my time and effort going out and doing the due diligence and doing the research on whatever, your divorce papers and getting your divorce decree, or going out and doing the research on liens that you're not familiar with, any kind of stuff like that. When you've got these roadblocks that you think matter before you can sign the contract, they don't. The contract is step number one. Don't waste your time on all that due diligence unless you know that it's going to turn into a deal. Also, from that point, when you've got somebody ready to sign the contract and you've got somebody to that point where they say, yeah, I will sell for what I owe, I am ready to go with this, strike. That's when you have to strike. You have to get them signing when they're ready to sign. If you get away from that moment, they may never come back to that moment. They may never be ready again to sign that contract, and you might lose your opportunity. Get the signed option contract. Now, one of the other things that you might have to do eventually is get a hard contract signed, a contract signed where you do not have an option period. And that's something that I very much do not recommend you do until you've got 20 or 30 deals under your belt. Once you've done 20 or 30 deals, then you can start talking about taking down a house without having an option period, because you really kind of know what you're doing. You've looked at enough, you've seen enough experiences that you can make that decision and say, you know what, I'm willing to go hard on this deal because. But right up front, option contract everything, because you're going to get wrapped up in negotiations. You're going to have negotiation fatigue. Your brain is going to get tired after the hours that you spend in that meeting talking to the person, and you don't want to make a mistake. At the very least, option contracts are going to give you that ability to go back and run the due diligence like I've talked to you about, to where you can go back and double check your numbers, double check everything that's going on, and make sure that you're in a good spot. If you go hard on a deal, you better be sure it's a deal. You better have a real deal in front of you if you're going hard on that contract, right? You've got to make sure that you're buying at a big enough discount that you've got room for error, whatever it may be. But don't go hard on contracts until you're really experienced in this. Like I mentioned before, for those of you, the members of creativecashflow.com, I do have it on your resources page. This is the video I'm referring to right here that says Gibson Call. That's the house that I bought it in. You can see in 19 minutes and 23 seconds, that's how long it took me to buy this house. From the moment I received the phone call to the moment that I had her ready to sign the contract was 19 minutes and 23 seconds. So you can hear that entire phone call and kind of mimic what I'm doing, mimic those cues, because guys, we have, it's an art form, but it's a very scientific art form. We've got a very specific roadmap that we want to shoot people down to get them to a point where they're comfortable. And you know what's crazy is that this person was thanking me for buying their house, right? That is the kind of power that we have in negotiating, is getting to a position that's going to work for us, but provide such a value contribution to our seller that they literally want to thank us for us being able to make a bunch of money on them. Keep watching these videos. we've got a lot of little short tips like this that are going to really come in and just and give you that extra bit of information that you might need. That's going to be the difference between you having a house and not having a house. It's really important to know when it's okay to take a house down over the phone immediately and when it's like, let me go out and check on this real quick, right? At the end of the day, if you can get an option contract on something, get an option contract on something. But the problem with getting an option contract, if you get it at just an agreed upon price, say they're not selling it for what they owe, if you get an option contract over the phone and it's at an agreed upon price and maybe they owed 50 and you told them you'd buy it for 80, well, if you go out there at the house and it turns out that there's a ton more rehab than you thought there was going to be because they just told you, oh, well, you know, everything's fine, and you go out there and it turns out there's a dead dog that has a rug over it because that's how the condition of the house is, that 80 is probably not going to work. And you've already told your seller you were ready to give them 80, and it's not a that's not a position I want you in. I don't want you in a position where you're going to have to go back to that seller and say, look, I know I told you I was going to give you 80, but I just can't. Look at your house, it's crap. I need to give you 50, right? When you're in the negotiations, that's when, when you're in the house, that's when you can take the negotiations to the steps that they need to go for you to buy the house at the right price. But if somebody is selling you their house at what they owe, there's no negotiating at that point anymore. If they're selling it to what they owe, you have their bottom dollar, go ahead and get it contract, see if it works later, all right? So keep watching these videos. Find us on Facebook, all the social media channels. Look for creativecashflow.com. Look for Propelio.com. Look for all of these guys that are contributing, anybody that you know of that you can really get something and garner some information out of, and start liking those pages and sharing the posts and getting involved. That's how it's going to work for you to get to the position that you want to be. You've really got to get involved. You've got to really work towards it. So good job watching this video. Keep on watching them. And until next time, I'll talk to you later.